This is Darwin to Jesus. Hope you're all doing well.
Hey up, Darwin to Jesus, me old mate. I'm good, thank you. How's it going with yourself? In a little bit, but that's mostly because I completely forgot that you existed. But hey, then I remembered. I looked up your channel and immediately found this thumbnail with "murder is just a preference" written all over it. And I just knew it was going to be really stupid. Not because there aren't reasonable arguments against subjective morality, but because you're definitely not going to make them.
So I used to be a pretty mean atheist. I had almost no empathy for others. I enjoyed pushing people's buttons and upsetting them.
So you used to be a dick when you were an atheist, but you're all better now. Ignore the fact that you constantly make ridiculous, uncharitable arguments, because now you're acting like a dick for Jesus, but like accidentally, which is of course much better, apparently. Honestly, I think I would respect you more if you made all your bad arguments on purpose, just to piss people off. At least then that would be funny, instead of just really sad and frustrating.
But even then, and for as long as I can remember, I've always had a complete and total aversion and dislike for the idea of subjective morality.
Okay, but ironically, your dislike of subjective morality is an utterly subjective opinion. It in fact does not make it true, and if I were a betting boy, the reason that you didn't like it is that you didn't actually understand it in anything but the most superficial of ways. That boiled it down to, anyone can do anything and it never bad, 'cause it just preference. Which is, of course, utterly ridiculous and not a thing that anyone who understands subjective morality believes. And I imagine that's what you thought, because every time you bring up one of your atheist opinions, it's one of the stupidest positions anyone could ever have about anything, because you have always been a dumbass.
Whenever I hear someone saying they believe morality is subjective, I simply don't believe them.
Well, let me put your "me I'm a dumbass, therefore I do a read minds" shit to bed. I absolutely believe that morality is a subjective thing. I do not think that there is a single fact of morality the same way that there are facts like gravity or the fact that you are stupid. But that does not mean that morals don't have value or reasons for existing, or any weight behind them, because again, you can do whatever is not what subjective morality is to anyone but the dumbest of assholes.
I want to hopefully give an analogy here for why I don't believe them, and why subjective morality is completely and totally absurd.
I really don't know how an analogy is going to give you access to the contents of other people's minds. I mean, even if you somehow proved without a shadow of a doubt that something is true, there will always be people who think the opposite, because they weren't ever exposed to that truth, or they just don't understand it, or they have a perspective that cannot align with that fact, because this is just not how believing things works. Also, you're absolutely not going to prove shit, but that's kind of a side issue at this point.
Imagine two friends decide to go golfing together.
I'm sorry, what the is a frond? Am I saying that right? You can't just throw in obscure technical terms and act like that proves your point. Let's just change it to a thing that actually makes sense. You imagine two people who hate each other and wish each other nothing but pain and suffering, but they're both pretty funny, so they do like to hang out. There, fixed.
The first friend hits his ball down the fairway. Now it's the second friend's turn. The second friend takes a ball out of his pocket and he throws it down the fairway. Immediately, the first friend objects. "You can't do that," he says.
Well then, clearly he and I have very different understandings for the rules of golf. Although it's less throwing it and more launching it using a modified bazooka. Bazooka golf, it's way more fun and involves significantly more explosions. It's win-win. Well, more win-win kaboom.
The second friend says, "Yes, I can. I just did. Do you have something that shows I'm in the wrong?"
It's less about him being in the wrong and more that he's playing incredibly poorly. I mean, seriously, the reason that they have golf bats is because you can whack those suckers fucking ages away. Way further than if you were simply throwing it. Basically, by playing like that, he's making the game not only harder for himself, but much less fun and competitive for everyone.
The first friend admits he doesn't have anything that would settle the matter. Actually, he doesn't believe in any set of standard golf rules.
Then they aren't playing golf. The entire enterprise collapses down around their ears. If you haven't agreed to the game of golf with a particular set of rules, then you aren't playing golf at all. And if the owners of the property where golf was being played were to enforce said rules, then they may very well not want dickheads hucking balls around any which ways and kick the pair of them out. Ultimately, it's essentially one big social contract, one that you don't necessarily have to follow. But again, if you don't, then you aren't playing fucking golf.
Those don't exist, he says, and he doesn't believe it's possible for them to exist. Golf rules are not real. They are anti-real.
While the rules are not facts about reality, golf isn't a physically unchanging property of the universe. But that doesn't matter because, again, there are various consequences to not playing properly. From the large, like not being able to hang around on the course, to more fundamental, like the game being super fucking boring. Well, okay, just as boring as normal golf, but in a completely different way. But bazooka golf, on the other hand.
This first friend is actually just upset because the second friend isn't playing golf like he, the first friend, personally prefers.
No, I think he's upset because he said, "Hey, do you want to play golf?" And the other friend said, "Yes, let's play the game, golf." And then when they got there, he started acting like a fucking massive dipshit, shouting, "There are no rules, lol." Probably embarrassing himself and the other guy, possibly in front of other friends that he has there. And maybe he pays a membership that has stipulations like, don't invite nuts who don't know how to play golf here. So he may very well have something to lose. Frankly, there is no way any version of this story where friend one, who definitely hates the guy, by the way, because who the fuck wants that kind of dipshit as a friend? 1 point to Sir Sick right there. But he's not upset because he's got a preference. He's upset because this is so absurd. What the fuck else are you supposed to feel?
The second friend that threw the golf ball, upon realizing this, laughs and points out that he has just as much right to be mad as the first friend for not playing how he prefers. And he's absolutely right. This is subjective morality.
No, it isn't, you utter fucking clown. This is not understanding how basic agreements work, not caring about other people's time or potentially their social status and financial outlays. Friend 2 harmed friend 1 and not the other way round, so he doesn't have a leg to stand on. This is basic consequentialism. And if anything, the second friend represents you as you scream, "Subjective morality is whatever I want it to be, therefore you can't be mad at me when I say stupid shit." Fuck me.
If morality is subjective, then there are no moral rules or obligations that are above us.
Wow, the fact that you're showing the fucking justice is blind law lady while saying this is utterly bizarre. There are literally laws that are very much above the vast majority of people. Laws that enforce various forms of morality. But, and this is the important bit, God isn't the one doing that. Fucking humans are. Hell, they even made the lady. Because morality, as humans do and understand it, comes from the minds of fucking humans.
When we say that is wrong, we should be saying I don't prefer to do that behavior personally, because that's what wrong actually boils down to. It's personal preferences.
No, they're saying murder hurts people because shock fucking horror, murder hurts people. And not simply the ones who are getting murdered, but their loved ones and their co-workers and their dependents. And, you know, if they're a particularly important person who contributes vast things to society at large, everybody loses out. Murder is wrong because the negative consequences are massive. And not just for how people feel about that person, but the fear of being murdered at complete random is why there are enormous social consequences for being a murderer. Such high consequences that even the people who don't or cannot understand why it is wrong will regularly not bother because it is not worth the hassle.
In subjective morality, there is no actual right or wrong. You have your preferences and I have mine. Your preferences are just as valid as everyone else's. So rape and murder and theft aren't wrong, they are just things some people happen to not like.
This is why I know you're an idiot. You cannot wrap your head around the fact that just because there's no grand high authority giving the rules, then none must exist. But that is patently and obviously wrong, because rules are literally just how we treat each other. Before civilization, where you just had tiny little villages, the ones that increased the survival chances of villages were the ones that caught on, whereas the ones that led to villages tearing themselves apart did not, because there was no one left to pass them on. No one decided that those were the rules, at least not at the time. They just happened to be the most beneficial way to treat each other. And as human society became more homogeneous, so too did the general rules, to the point where most everyone accepted the rules that allowed us to survive and thrive. And those were the ones that were considered moral, and the ones that didn't do that were immoral, and then someone wrote them down. And then religions came along and said, we did that. And that's how you end up with dipshits like you. And you know what? I want to be super fair to religion for no fucking reason, but you could say, at best, religion is quite good at spreading certain values. But again, that is not the same thing as having invented them.
Just as I happen to not like sugar in my coffee, there isn't anything wrong with my wife putting sugar in her coffee. It's simply not something I prefer.
Wow, you are just so good at missing the forest for the trees. What if she put sugar in your coffee? That's not just about preference, that's a malicious act of fuckery. And hell, what if she liked to put some sort of peanut flavoring in her coffee, and you were allergic? If she put that in your coffee, that's suddenly not about preference at all, but an actual attack on you. It's not that you don't like it, it's that it will kill you. That would be comparable to sexual assault and murder, because that has potential short and long-term dire consequences. Again, consequences are the thing that makes subjective morality not just what I happen to like, and you're a fucking moron.
If morality is subjective, that's all it is. A personal, arbitrary, meaningless preference with no substance or real meaning. The rapist's opinion is no less valid than the non-rapist's opinion.
It is like you are trying to sound as dumb as humanly possible. So with your coffee analogy, if we stick to it strictly, who is involved in your wife's choice to put sugar in her drink? Her. End of process. Now, if someone assaults another person, sexually or otherwise, who is involved in that? Oh right, many people. At least one of them being harmed by the action, you dumb asshole. You see how that's a completely fucking different situation? It's not just a preference, it's an action that causes another person injury, against their will to boot. That's why murder is an actual crime, and say having a consensual gay relationship in any place that isn't full of enough dumb assholes who think other people doing something that they don't like is somehow wrong, even though it hurts no one, is or at least should be legal, and demonstrates how we know that biblical morality is so useless, because it regularly condemns things that hurt no one, whilst explicitly endorsing others that do, including one that you really shouldn't be bringing up in this context if you want to not sound like an utter moron. It's almost like you do want to, not gonna lie.
There is no moral truth. There is no right or wrong.
Except, you know, where what you do harms other people and makes the world worse, sowing mistrust and fear among the tribe until the whole place is burned to the ground. But that other tribe, who's doing things to help and support each other, and they're doing really, really well, the fools! They don't know they could not be doing that, and all end up as fucking dead as we are. I am very smart.
Many subjectivists will be upset about how I've represented subjectivism.
Oh my god, the faux self-awareness, whilst also completely misrepresenting the topic, is fucking amazing. Yeah, when you describe something incredibly poorly to the point of meaninglessness, and then act like it's everyone else's fault that you sound like an utter nitwit. That is in fact quite vexing, but calling it out makes you sound like an asshole who then does something wrong but just doesn't care. I told you, you are Golfman's number 2, and I'm pretty sure you always have been.
But what I have said is accurate. In subjectivism, there are no moral truths. There are just opinions and preferences. That's what it means.
To say that people will be annoyed at you for saying it wrong and then simply doubling down and dismissing their entirely valid and accurate criticisms is not a victory. It's arrogant stupidity of the highest order. You don't get to define what other people mean when they explain something, especially not a philosophical concept that has been discussed heavily for the longest goddamn time. You absolute fucking kludge.
This is not morality, this is nonsense.
Well, first thing we can agree on today is just a shame that you can't seem to put two and two together and think to yourself, other people who are far smarter than me, although I imagine f***ing rocks are smarter than you, but experts and philosophers and real actual big brain smart guys have debated these ideas since forever ago, and not one of them has ever gone, wait a minute, this all actually means nothing. Derpy derpy der. Not even the people who disagree with that do that. And that's because it isn't. And the conversation they're all having about it goes so far beyond your comprehension, it sounds like nonsense. But that's not their problem. It's yours. Perhaps try not to be a giant ignorant jackass.
When I see a video of a pit bull attacking an old man, I know that the cameraman who is sitting there filming should be helping. He's in the wrong.
This is such a bizarrely specific example, it makes me seriously wonder if this is a thing that you did that one time, got called out for it, and now to make people think that you would never do that. Look, I even called it out the one time. What the fuck?
When I say he is wrong, I don't mean that he did something that I personally happen to not prefer. I mean he has violated a standard that is outside of us both and that we're both subject to.
Yes, preventing harm. It is in fact a biological imperative for human beings to protect and save each other from harm, because that ultimately aids everyone. If everyone, or at least most people, have a predisposition to rescue one another, that means that no matter what happens, you can rely on help from other people. And those individuals who shrug and say, not my problem, well, they end up getting shunned. And if someone sees that same person who filmed the old man getting attacked gets attacked himself, they might have pause to help them. And hell, perhaps if they do save him, suddenly Dipshit McGee just learned a hard but long-lasting lesson in empathy. AKA, oh shit, if bad things can happen to me, they can happen to other people as well. Next time, I'll help because people will help me. Everyone wins.
Subjectivists will say the cameraman was wrong, but really if they were to be consistent, they should say, I personally don't prefer to film men getting attacked by dogs.
No, I think they would probably say some of the same kind of shit that I've been saying, but with significantly less swearing, smarter mouth words, and probably ending with the phrase, don't you agree, Professor Dingleblop?
That's all they'd actually be saying under subjectivism. To act as if moral subjectivism means anything when all you're telling me is your preferences is so absurd it's insulting.
Yes, your stupid, thoughtless, ignorant f***ing description of a subject you clearly don't understand or have the capacity and clearly interest to learn about is absolutely f***ing insulting. Especially considering that even the rules that you would say were very specifically created by God, yeah, humans made those too. It is subjective turtles all the way down. There's no point where you can say that a human didn't decide, whether consciously or unconsciously, that one thing was moral or otherwise. But here's the deal, and it's what really makes you sound as stupid as I can only assume that you look. While I know I could be wrong, I do not think that you could even fathom being wrong. Even in the time before you became even wronger on everything you ever believed before, when you stopped doing your atheism, because you've never understood that subjective morality doesn't mean arbitrary morality. And it never fucking has. And just because you're too disinterested to actually be correct on it and learn something, it doesn't make it any less true.
Rape is wrong. It's not something I happen to not prefer doing. It's wrong. Period. This is why I have never been a subjective moralist, and I don't believe people when they say they are. Because they either...
Oh, the sheer fucking irony.
Don't understand what it actually means, or they do understand and they insist it still is morality, even though it carries absolutely no weight or authority and is just a fancy way of telling others about your preferences. And why should anyone care about your preferences? I don't.
Yes, I know that you don't care about everybody's preferences for factual accuracy or basic goddamn word comprehension. That's kind of the goddamn problem, you embarrassing little twonk.